Running a business is like running a marathon, not a sprint. We've all heard about this expression, but what do I know about running a marathon? So I've decided to run a full 42.2 kilometers or 26.2 miles to see what I can learn and improve the way I run my business. So in this video, I'm going to share my journey to running my first marathon and all of the lessons that I've learned along the way. British countryside, running in the mountains. Now I'm in Geneva. Today is Monaco, in front of all the big boats. So we're here in Dubai running, getting it done. It's really hot. And really surprisingly, I've ended up learning so much more than I ever anticipated from running this marathon and in the way I run my businesses. So the first thing that I thought was really interesting is in the way people start businesses. The way you approach running a marathon or something of that essentially magnitude with running a business is pretty much follows the exact same curve. Let's go through this exact startup curve. So as you can see, it all starts with when you start your business and you essentially have this idea that this is the goal. This is what you want, and it's really fun, it's really exciting. This is when you start researching things on YouTube. This is where essentially your feed becomes completely cluttered only with that one specific topic. And I remember it's exactly the same thing. When I first started my business, when I went into running an agency, pretty much everything and the only thing I could see online was how to do this, how to do that. And it's really fun because you essentially have only the opportunities in front of you. And it was the exact same thing with running. TikTok became pretty much only a feed of running videos, same thing with YouTube. And at that point, there's just so much to learn that you're just learning a bunch, reading books, watching YouTube videos. I've been following so many different people from, again, Lionel Sanders, who runs crazy triathlons, to people like Nick Bear.
It's when things get really tough. It's not just one extra rep in the gym. It's not just one more mile. It's when everything gets tough on a daily basis. And it will, and it does. It's pushing past that.
All of that really helped. And in that initial phase of just being really full of enthusiasm, it is amazing. So it was really, I remember vividly when I first started my business and you're like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I can get X amount of clients. If I get X amount of clients, it'll equate to that much money. So in this initial phase, this is where you start making the plan because you've started learning a bunch of different aspects of whatever you're trying to achieve. And so for me, this is what I came up with, this 20-week marathon plan. What's funny, during this initial first phase is generally the first few steps are actually really easy. And so you get crazy dopamine hit really right at the start. When you're running a business, it's building your first website. Of course, that's really easy. When you run a marathon, your first few workouts, they're running 2, 3, 4, 5 kilometers. So this is just 20 to half an hour little runs. So of course, you're like, wow, this is amazing. I feel so good. My knees feel really light. Same thing with the business. You're like, wow, starting this journey of designing my logo, building the website, maybe starting to think about the kind of copy you want to write on your site. All of those are essentially really easy steps that you get crazy amount of dopamine. So you're really like riding this kind of like wave upwards of just full of energy. So at that point, you just tell yourself, wow, what a great journey. Everything seems so easy. And I really just can't wait to finish it because I can't see any problem. It'll just be perfect. Everything will go smoothly. I feel great. Let's go. All right. I'm 1 kilometer from my initial goal. I'm running my first 15K. But for some reason, I just feel like I haven't run so far to just stop here. So we'll see. So we smashed the 15Ks. It felt too easy, so we're going. Gonna try and do a marathon. Half marathon done. I guess I just need to keep up with the exercise and the marathon should be able to be done. And now you've entered phase 2. Reality sets in and you just realize how everything is going to be much, much harder than you first anticipated. This is called the Valley of Sorrow. So this is when, for example, after sending a bunch of emails to try and get clients, you're getting rejected after rejections. It's just soul crushing, really difficult. For me, I went on a run in London, was meant to be a tiny little run, 6 kilometers. And within the first 10 minutes, I was in the middle of the park and then boom, my knee completely locked up. I just couldn't even bend my knee, couldn't do anything. And I was like, what do I do now? Okay, so I just went for a run in London, in Hampton Heath. And after 3.5K, literally my knee was just not moving. And I stopped running for a second, tried to walk again, and I'm like, I can barely extend my leg. I don't really know what happens. It's just so annoying. Like, I do all this stuff, I roll, train, I do the exercise, the stretches. Still somehow just limping to the closest road to try and take an Uber back to where I'm staying. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. So essentially I had to literally walk backwards because that was the only way I could move my knee in order to get out of the park, in order to order an Uber and just get back home. So this is really the start of the reality sets in, and you just realize that what you've embarked on and this great challenge that you essentially signed up for is actually going to be much harder than originally planned. That's not to say that the reward won't be there, but the journey will be significantly harder than planned. So at this point, this is when you need to really assess the situation and figure out, okay, cool, what are the next steps? What I've done so far, when I thought it was going to be all easy, just doesn't work. I need to put a proper strategy in place. So now it's time to enter the experimentation phase. You just got to try a number of different things, really see what has worked, what hasn't worked, just really pivot, try something different. And this is really the time where it's worth chatting with consultants, experts, just to avoid continuing in the wrong direction. This is where we often see people that try and do the same thing over and it just doesn't work. So for me, I was just incredibly lucky that Educate, Iman had organized Jake Dearden to be a running coach and essentially a physical coach. So I was able to chat one-on-one with him, and he gave me a number of different exercises that I just needed to do in order to just strengthen my knees. Because for me, I had never really run before, so my legs were actually fairly weak. So I needed to do a bunch of different exercises around my glutes in order just to reduce the symptoms of like IT band and all of that, which really for me, I just couldn't go and couldn't run any further without having crazy pain. Experimentation, this is the exact same thing where you're now trying different outreach strategy, you're trying different service delivery types, all of that. So you just enter this really A/B testing / experimentation phase. It is now the new realization sets in that essentially in order for you to achieve your goals, you're just gonna have to put in more reps, more effort, and just be more precise about it. So for me, I just went from I simply need to follow my running plan, which is running a bunch of times a week and everything will be fine, to essentially realizing, okay, cool, I now need to do strengthening exercises every single day in order to just really build the muscles around my knees in order to make sure that I could just even continue. And again, for your business, it's an example of that is you just realize that sending random cold emails just doesn't really work. You really have got to build a full-fledged infrastructure in your business to be able to understand how the sales journey actually works and build structure around every single step in order for you to get clients. But at least now you've got a clear idea of what you need to do in order to achieve your goal. So really this phase is all about pivot and iteration. And actually that is the journey of trying to run a marathon or running a business. That pretty much is the majority of the phase. You just got to figure out and test so many different things in order to figure out what works for you. And after you've tried so many different things, but this is where most people go wrong, they just don't put enough reps in. You can't try one or two things and then be like, oh, it didn't work. You really have got to try. For me, it was many different types of exercise, many different types of stretching. In addition to Jake, I actually went and saw a running coach here where I did a full running analysis. Then I ended up having to see a number of additional physios, all of that. This is also when I went through the process of testing a number of different shoes, because this is just the sort of thing you have to do. With your business, you need to try different tools, you need to try different team members. That's just the reality of what needs to happen. Most people that try something fail once and it doesn't work. So for us who try and actually go and reach our goals, it's all about trying and trying. And after a while, things start to work. If you put in the reps, you will see results and things start to work. And that is the main difference between people who succeed and people who don't. The one who succeed just keep going. They don't give up and they keep showing up every single day, even when it sucks, and just keep putting in the reps. Running a marathon, you can do that in a few months, and that will give you a good idea of what running a business for a number of years looks like. One day you're running on a massive high, everything is amazing, and then boom, the next day everything comes crashing down. Your business gets shut down on Facebook, your ads aren't working, you get rejected by clients. For me, running a marathon is my knee getting locked, a number of different things. And again, now I was riding this really nice wave of after pivoting, after iterating, everything was going really well. And then again, I got injured. So as I said, everything was going really well for me. I started seeing more physios, again, did a number of those running assessments just to make sure I was really going in the right direction. Because at this point for me, I had realized that it wasn't so much more about the running, it was more about injury prevention. I did my best, but as predicted, it all came crashing down. This is now a month and a half out of the actual marathon date, and the physio is telling me maybe you won't actually be able to run. This could be actually a stress fracture on your foot. It's going to take about a week to 2 weeks to just figure out whether it is a stress fracture or whether it is a broken bone or it's just related to tendons. So taped up my foot, pretty much immobilized it 2 weeks, and then figured out what happened. So again, this is, as I said, you can now see the curve. You're going up, you're on a high, but then if you actually zoom in, even though you're on the upwards trajectory, there are really a lot of dips. And this is what a lot of people forget, because from the outside, it just looks like a really nice upward curve. But if you zoom in, and I can tell you this is where people go wrong, they just don't zoom in on people's journey. It's the same for every single person I know. Even though it looks and feels amazing from the outside, trust me, if you zoom in, every single person has really crazy obstacles that they've got to overcome. Whether it's literally getting sued by a business partner, whether it's having your manufacturer steal your idea, having clients sue you, having owed money to it's all the same. Whereas every single business owner has had crazy stories like this, but often they go untold. And therefore, when you just look at it, you don't even know. And so this is where, even though you're on an upward trajectory, sometimes you just need to go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, what do I do now in order to continue growing? And so for me, at that point, I was literally just a month out from the marathon. So all I had to do is, again, and this is the same in business, once you have put in the reps, you have put in the appropriate amount of training, you also need to start trusting yourself. So for me, I just needed to know that, okay, cool, now it's been almost 19 weeks. I've been training hard. I've been doing all the different exercises. I just got to also trust that thing will work. It's the same as when you've been preparing for a really big client pitch or something like that, and you've done it over and over. There's no point stressing at the last minute, because essentially you've just got to trust in your training and trust into all the different reps that you've put in, that you will be able to show up when the big day comes up. And so now fast forward a little bit to marathon day. You wake up, it's the day, you've got to be like, okay, now it's just time to let muscle memory work, trust yourself, and just be like, okay, cool, let's do the best I can, try and enjoy the process. And essentially, if you try and enjoy the process, this will make your life 100 times easier. So trust the process and just know that regardless, you're just not giving up. That again is a single main thing that differentiates people that succeed versus people who don't. You just don't give up. But in order to not give up, you need to make sure that you're really well prepared. And this was something that for me, I was like, there is no chance that this is happening. And so in order to do this, for me, it all came down to nutrition. I even had a call with a nutrition consultant just to make sure, again, for me, I was like, I'm not a crazy athlete. I've never done any of this. So I just want to put as much work as possible to make it as easy as possible on the day. And essentially, it all came down on making sure that you have the right nutrition and the right hydration plan. Because at that point, it's a guarantee that you're going to be able to run. Even if you have a little bit of an injury, unless you actually break a leg or something crazy like that, you know that you have it in you to not give up and continue. So for me, I knew that the only thing that could truly stop me is to run out entirely of glycogen and essentially not having enough carbs, and same thing with not having enough hydrolytes. So for me, I knew exactly how many gels I needed to take. I had 8 gels in total. I ended up taking only 6, but that for me was the biggest difference. So for me, the plan was simple. I had 8 gels prepared. I had 2 bottles full of electrolytes. And now the only thing left to do was to start running. And we're off.
Just stay hard.
Okay, I just passed the 10K mark, approximately. So far, so good. We'll get it done.
Sure.
Halfway done. So far, so good. Okay, 30K done. So far, so good. Legs are a little bit heavy, but we got this.
3.5. 2.5. 2.5. Woohoo! Yes! Mwah! Come on up here! You got this. 2.5 laps.
Stay hard. Stay hard.
Stay hard! Hold it up, hold it up. Woo! Yes, you did it!
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah!
Not as bad as I thought.
Woo! Yeah! Yeah!
Yeah, it really wasn't.
Well done, man.
You fucking smoked it.
Oh
Well done.
no, it's my. It's not your lungs. It's your.
No,
I don't
yeah,
know
lungs
you,
is
but
like lungs is
my
basically
hips
zero.
is,
It's crazy.
How are we feeling?
Honestly, it's surprising because the lungs is like barely like a big effort. Just like knees are sore, legs.
Legs are sore.
Well done, sir.
Well done.
And so for me, the key takeaways here from this entire journey was 1, you've just got to show up and not give up. Then 2, it's actually great to do an activity that doesn't involve being on your phone, because this is where you end up being bored, and therefore you need to use your creative muscles and flex them to try and come up with different things. And so this is why for me, while running, I end up coming up with a ton of different ideas. So the one tip I have for you is don't always run with pot and music, because that will prevent you from being bored, which will then prevent you from coming up with really fun and creative ideas. So for me, that was really a massive takeaway. Be bored more often, because running is boring, especially while you're training and you do like those long sessions, 2-3 hours at a time. But for me, I used that time as a really creative way to come up with things. And that also made it significantly easier, because on the marathon day, then I was able to actually put music towards the end of the marathon, which made it so much easier to just give me that extra little boost. So don't give up. Be bored more often so you can get your creative muscles flowing, and you can actually, this is when really the genius ideas show up. It's the same reason why a lot of us come up with crazy good ideas in the shower or while driving, because this is the only time where we're not on our phones. So the biggest is be on your phone less often. And also trust the process. It's always a journey. You get really excited at first, then the reality sets in, then you've got to iterate, figure out what works, and then again, things start to work. But even though you're on an upward trajectory, there is a ton of dips, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. Even when things go well, things will break and things will not go as planned. But you've got to trust the process, continue, iterate, and make sure you just do not give up. I really believe in you. And if you decide on a goal and actually put a proper strategy in place to achieve that goal, there is zero doubt in my mind that you can achieve it. It's just about not giving up and iterating as many times as required in order to find success. Have a great day. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.